This is Kapinder Cole, which is also one of the most important analysts in the identity management only uh, domain. And according to them, also, both for the uh, ITA as well as for access management, we happen to be in the magic quadrangular equivalent. Why I gave you this quick summary on a few slides, not because I wanted to talk so much about Atlantis, but the relevance of Atlantis's compact identity as a technology in view of what analysts like Gartner are saying, which is the converged identity management. And in the converged identity management, what we are going to focus today is on the authentication part, which is so very much important in this new perimeter of identity. So let me just talk about why we say and why everybody is saying today that identity is the new perimeter. Five important reasons. Number one, as you know, traditional perimeters have been based on networks, and where the network goes, where the network is the perimeter that we all talked about for God knows how many years. One big change that occurred, as we all of us know, is the adoption of cloud, which has significantly and totally changed the whole definition of perimeter itself. Because today, because of cloud adoption, because of the applications that all of our customers in the world they get from the cloud, because of the infrastructure itself being there in the cloud, the identity, the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service is either people already have or they're moving towards it. And with that, the boundary of the cloud, the boundary of the enterprise has become, uh, very, very different from what it used to be. Today, users can access from any device, anytime, and from anywhere. Never before, perhaps, this statement has been as true as it is today because of the COVID situation. And all of us know that COVID or no COVID, the world has realized that it's not important for everybody to be in the office every single day. So this whole situation of working from remote is going to very much continue for the world. If you manage to steal an identity today, you are inside a corporate network for all practical purposes. And that's why the entire emphasis of the hackers today is to steal identity rather than anything else. And with some of the technologies which are still prevalent, I'll talk about the passwords, for example. It is not very difficult to get inside the corporate network. And finally, as you can see from all this, today's perimeter is wherever the identity goes. So I log in from one device, the perimeter gets extended to that new device. I log in from a new time zone, the perimeter in that instant gets extended to that time zone, and likewise for network and so on and so forth. So the only thing that can be seen to be, the determinant of a perimeter is the identity in this new world. I must here take you to, and I'm sure all of us have been listening, reading on the zero trust security, but just to refresh, because it's very much important for going on to the next level of my presentation. The strategy around zero trust boils down, in summary, to never trust, always verify. So we had models before where we perhaps authenticated once. You came to your office, you logged in into your system, your Windows system, and you were given access beyond that to number of applications. If you didn't have a single sign-on, you could authenticate, and once you've authenticated, you're in. You don't have to really authenticate yourself again. But in case of zero trust, now nobody gets trusted beyond that particular second and moment. I log in from a device, and in another, few seconds, I log in into another application from the same device. I need to be getting authenticated again. And so the number of authentications that are beginning to happen are so high that it's creating its own issues, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Zero Trust essentially is a security model that is based on strict identity verification process, which can be very complex. And all the traffic, as I said, is authenticated repeatedly. Why Zero Trust? Very easy to understand. I don't have to talk about it. Essentially, if I just take a simple example of the insiders, though the Zero Trust is also applicable to the outsiders, more than 28% of the breaches are coming from inside. And inside people may have good intent, but may have bad judgment. And that's how it all happens. The alternatives that came in between, like the SDNs or the SDFs, have not been very successful to keep the breaches out. They're very difficult to configure, to debug, and very, very difficult to architect as well. As I said, the surge of the adoption of the third-party SaaS services and PaaS services and the cloud adoption has pushed up the reality and the need for us to keep on authenticating all the time. COVID has made the situation even more dangerous. If you look at, I don't know how many of you have seen of late, the data coming in from the most reliable research sources in the world. In spite of whatever steps were taken to reduce the number of intrusions, the intrusions have gone up by almost 18% during the COVID time. And the worst part is that the size of these intrusions happens to be more severe and bigger than what it used to be earlier. And this is just the beginning. So what we saw was the identity becoming the new perimeter, going all over. The importance of Zero Trust to deal with this situation of identity getting all over. Is Zero Trust looking at doing authentications all the time? There are so many elements of Zero Trust, but I'm going to focus more on this being one of the most significant elements today. Now, let's take a quick look. And I'm talking about Atlantis as an example. I'm not wanting to really propagate the technology. I want you all to appreciate that. But I got to take some example to really make you see certain things which you may not have seen before. So I talked about the converged IAM suites, and this is the Zero Trust architecture essentially very strongly recommends that all the elements of the identity and access management should be deliverable as a part of the architecture of Zero Trust in a way that they are working with each other seamlessly. So an access management and an access governance, they got to be working together. When I'm logging in, all the credentials, all the things that are happening at the back need to be captured and taken inside the risk engine of the identity and access management system. The same thing has to be done when people are trying to ask for a permission to access a new application or a new entitlement for themselves. And that data also has to be as much a part of the risk engine and displayed and shown and analyzed as the access management logins. And so it's very important to have this converged IAM suites. And that's why perhaps Gartner also is talking about it in its latest market guide. In Atlantis, what we have done is not only we have got the converged IAM suite, as I talked about in the beginning, but also the authentication part, which is extremely important for Zero Trust application. It is important for user organizations to be able, you might have already purchased, for example, an access management solution. You may be having a single sign-on system from Okta or from somebody else, or you might have done it yourself. But you do need very strong authentication capabilities, which you could apply either to your SSO or to your other devices or applications or users or anything that you may like to. So our authentication offering is an independent offering, which does not, and it is in the passwordless area, which ensures that you don't have to, that you can take your authentication enterprise-wide in the most acceptable manner from a cybersecurity viewpoint. The second thing that we have done is to, the first thing I talked about was the converged IAM. The second part is to converge IAM with other cybersecurity elements. And that's equally important because when we talk of zero trust, seamlessness of the entire cybersecurity defensible environment becomes very, very important. Whether it is passwordless authentication, where we have done a lot of work, and I'll just give you a little more, show you a little more on that, or the identity-centric security operations center, which is a new concept. SOCs have been there for donkey's years, and SOCs are, all of you would be familiar with. It's all about purchasing a lot of tools, or renting tools, or taking them on subscription, and then finding somebody who can help you in terms of running a SOC, which would analyze all the incidents and go on to give you visibility into what could be going wrong so that you could take actions. This has been there for a long time, but the identity centricity of a SOC is a new thing that has come in, where you would be able to go down to the level of from which identity the problem is coming from, and not just leave it at an event level. Also, we have a proprietary technology which in our identity-centric security operations center can silence most of the noise, which is actually finally turns out to be false positives. And therefore, the need to do real work on incident management reduces almost 98.5% time. We have an identity-centric risk engine, which again, as I was saying, is very, very important from the perspective of getting into the zero trust kind of architecture. We have got API management for easy and secure integrations. Otherwise, how can you really talk about converging IAM with other cybersecurity elements? And for that matter, one element of cybersecurity with other. So we have a very advanced API management capabilities available. And finally, we have got very intelligent access request systems. In fact, through our identity management system, you can set policies, which again, zero trust lays so much emphasis on that everything has to be done through setting policies and following them. Our intelligent access request systems ensure that proper inputs are made available both to the requester as well as to the approver on the fly, on the spot before a decision is taken.